I raised you to marry a man who could stand on his own 2 feet, not one who can barely manage one arm. That's what my mother said. Not a whisper, not a secret. Right there under the string lights, with champagne glasses clinking and a jazz trio trying to keep the night soft. Franklin, Tennessee. September air. A vineyard that looked like a postcard. People stopped mid-sip. Heads turned. I felt the sound leave the room. I stood at the entrance holding Jack's hand. Army dress blues. Sleeve pinned neat where his right arm used to be. He smiled at me like the world was kind. The chatter slowed to a crawl, then died. Forks touched plates too hard. Someone cleared a throat. The silence bloomed. By the bar, 2 cousins leaned together. One smirked. Guess she settled for a sympathy story. The other laughed. Short, sharp. It cut anyway. Heat climbed my neck. Jack's fingers tightened around mine. I held back tighter, like I could hold off the whole crowd with one grip. My mother, Susan, pearls straight, lipstick perfect, stood by the gift table. She didn't look at me when she spoke. She looked at the room. She looked at witnesses. You could have picked someone who doesn't make people stare. A few guests glanced at the band, as if music could fix that. It didn't. It never does. I kept my chin up for the photographer. Smile, but smaller. Eyes dry. My palms were slick. My breath hooked and stalled. Jack leaned in. It's okay. Let them talk. His voice was steady, like tires on good pavement. I nodded because nodding was all I had. The officiant called us to dinner. Chairs scraped. We walked past tables like a slow parade. My younger brother Ethan leaned back and let his friends crowd him. Guess charity weddings are in style, he said. They snickered into their napkins. My mother said nothing to him. My father kept his eyes on his plate like there was scripture in the rosemary. We sat. A waiter poured champagne and didn't meet my eyes. Across the table, an aunt smiled like pain was polite. I smoothed my dress. My hands wouldn't lay flat. I pressed them to the linen and felt the cloth cool my skin. Jack caught me doing it and shifted his knee to mine. A quiet anchor. Jack leaned closer. Don't waste your tears on people who wouldn't bleed for you. He said it low. He said it like he meant every word. The room didn't change, but my lungs did. Air came back. I reached for my glass and set it down without drinking. My hand still shook. Dinner moved in awkward inches. Clinks. Scrapes. Forced talk about weather and harvest and how pretty the vines looked. Ethan kept performing for his row of friends. Must be nice, he said to one of them too loud. Built-in excuse for every chore. They laughed like kids on a school bus. My jaw clenched until it hurt. The coordinator announced the first dance. The crowd shifted toward the floor, grateful for a reason to stop pretending. Jack stood, offered his left hand, and pulled me in close. He smelled like aftershave and starch. I put my head to his shoulder and counted the beats to keep my voice from shaking. Eyes followed us. Not warm, not welcoming. Curious. Measuring. I felt it across my back like a draft. Jack's palm was firm at my waist. The band slid into a slow standard. I could feel his heartbeat against my cheek. Even. Calm. Mine was not. I just want to go home, I whispered. Someday, he said, they'll call this the best mistake you ever made. I let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. Almost. We kept moving. He pivoted, led, steadied me when the hem of my dress got in the way. A camera flashed again and again. I didn't look at it. I looked at him. The song ended. People clapped. My mother clapped last. Well, she said, just bright enough to carry. At least he can dance with one hand. The laughter that followed wasn't long, but it landed heavy. My chest burned. Words rose to my tongue like steam. I turned toward her. Jack's hand tightened. Not today. I shut my mouth so fast my teeth clicked. We walked off the floor. I could feel eyes on the back of my dress. I could hear the low run of their talk. I kept my spine straight because I needed one thing tonight that didn't bend. At the head table, my mother pretended to fix a napkin ring. A cousin approached with a practiced grin. "Beautiful ceremony," she said. Her eyes slid to Jack's sleeve and back to my face. So brave. She meant me. She meant him. She meant neither. I thanked her anyway and watched her hurry off. Back inside, Ethan raised his phone and snapped a photo of me across the room. "Smile, princess," he called. His friends laughed. I turned away. Jack stayed beside me until the laughter broke apart and moved on to someone else. The cake came out like a peace offering. People oohed, people awed. Sugar solves nothing, but it gives them something to do with their mouths. We cut it. We fed each other tiny bites. Sweetness stung my tongue. As the night emptied, the band packed chords and the lights dropped a shade. I picked up my clutch and the little things brides forget until the end. Lipstick, a wilted corsage, a folded program with someone else's name spelled wrong. Jack took my bouquet and slung my bag over his shoulder like it weighed nothing. I turned for one last look. The vineyard glowed warm and false. My mother laughed at something I couldn't hear. My father nodded along, eyes on the tablecloth. Ethan held court with his friends, hands moving like he was telling the story of a legend he'd just made up. My mouth went dry. I pressed my fingers to the necklace at my throat to steady them. "They'll see," I whispered. The words were small, but they sat true in my chest. Jack met my eyes and gave me that calm nod only he has. "I know," he said. We walked out together, shoes loud on the stone, night air cool against hot skin. The door shut behind us with a soft click. I felt my shoulders drop for the first time all day. He laced his fingers with mine and led me toward the dark lot where our car waited. No speeches, no grand exit. Just two people stepping off a stage they never asked for. The crickets were loud. The stars were plain and honest. I breathed and didn't choke on it. Jack opened the car door for me and I slid in. Before he went around to the driver's side, he leaned down and kissed my forehead. "Tomorrow," he said. I nodded, throat tight, hands finally still. I looked back once at the lights across the vines, then faced forward. We pulled away. Jack saw me holding it and said quietly, "Maybe they're on a trip." I nodded, but we both knew better. Every morning after that, I checked the mailbox like it might change. He never said anything, just wrapped his good arm around me as I came back empty-handed. The silence started to feel like its own kind of violence. Thanksgiving came faster than I wanted. My favorite holiday growing up, the smell of cinnamon, the noise, the arguing over who'd cut the pie. I told myself maybe this was the year things would thaw. I texted my mom, "We'd love to stop by, just for an hour. I can bring pie." Minutes passed. Then the bubble popped up. Her reply, "You made your choice. Live with it." My hand went cold holding the phone. Jack saw the message. He didn't say anything, just set a cup of coffee beside me. "Drink before it gets cold," he murmured. I stared at the cup until the steam disappeared. A few days later, I opened Facebook. Ethan, my brother, had posted photos from Thanksgiving dinner. Mom and Dad at the head of the same table I'd grown up around. Her crystal dishes, her silver turkey platter, the chandelier I used to polish every year. His caption, "Family, always there when it matters." I wasn't in a single photo, not even a mention, just a void where a daughter used to be. I tried calling once, the old landline number. It rang and rang, then stopped. My father picked up. "Dad, it's me." Silence. I could hear the TV behind him, the sound of a football game, forks hitting plates, muffled laughter. I said his name again. Nothing. Then a click. The line went dead. I stared at the phone for a long time. Jack came over, but I just shook my head. "He didn't hang up by mistake," I said. He didn't argue. He didn't need to. That night we had tacos sitting on the floor of our tiny apartment. Styrofoam boxes, plastic forks, cheap salsa. I tried to joke. "We used to have turkey, not tacos." Jack grinned, eyes soft. Hey, tacos don't judge you. That made me laugh, really laugh. He raised his soda can. To our family. I lifted mine. To our family. For the first time that day, my chest stopped hurting. A few weeks later, a family friend. I didn't answer. I just closed the app and never opened it again. My birthday came next. Quiet. Empty. No calls, no texts, no card. Jack came home with a single cupcake from the diner where I worked. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," he said, lighting one candle. I smiled. "You're my whole party." He grinned. "Guess that means I get to sing, too." He sang off-key, soft and slow. I blew out the candle and wished for nothing. The silence around us was heavier than ever, but at least it was honest. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A notification. Family group chat revived. My heart jumped for a second before I opened it. The message read, "You've been removed from this group." That's all. My knees gave out. I slid down to the bathroom floor, phone still in my hand. Jack found me there. What happened? They kicked me out. He didn't ask who. He just knelt beside me and pulled me close. "Then we'll build our own," he whispered. His voice was steady. It anchored me when I couldn't breathe. A few weeks later, I drove past my parents' house. Christmas lights in the windows, cars in the driveway. I stopped across the street. Through the window, I saw my mom laughing. Really laughing, holding Ethan's girlfriend's hand like she belonged there. The sight hit harder than anything they'd said. I put the car in gear and drove away. Somewhere between the stop sign and the next light, I realized home wasn't a place anymore. It was a person. That night, Jack was still at work when I sat by the window. The city was quiet. I opened my wedding photos, scrolling through the smiles, the fake ones, the pity looks. Then I stopped on one photo. Jack holding my hand, sleeve pinned, eyes full of something real. It was the only picture where I looked truly happy. Maybe that was enough. Before bed, I texted my mom one last time. "I still love you, but I won't chase you anymore." No reply. No dots. Nothing. I deleted the thread. Jack came in, smelling like oil and cold air. "You okay?" I took a breath, steady this time. "I will be." He smiled, nodded once, and turned off the light. The room was silent, but for the first time the silence didn't belong to them anymore. My father dabbed his mouth. "We don't fund bad investments." "It's not an investment," I said. "It's our start." "Same thing," he replied. "Risky." Unstable Jack's hand pressed my knee, a quiet, "I'm here." My throat was dry. I reached for water. My mother watched his sleeve move. "Sweetheart," she purred, "why don't you ask your husband?" "Oh, wait." Her eyes flicked to where his right arm should be. The pause did the cutting. "He can't." Ethan choked on a laugh. "Mom." "I'm just being realistic," she said. "A shop needs two hands." My chair made a sound on the hardwood. The caterer looked up from the kitchen doorway, then back down. My father refilled his wine with careful attention, as if the bottle might judge him. "We've been saving," I said. "We just need a bridge." "Bridges collapse," my father said. Ethan tipped his glass in my direction. "Sounds like a pity project." Jack's voice stayed even. "We're not asking for pity." My mother waved a manicured hand. "Anyway, Ethan's had such a busy quarter." She brightened. "We're buying him a condo in Franklin." "Next month," I stared at her. "A condo?" "He needs to be near his office," she said. Ethan grinned like a billboard. "Gotta invest in success." Something hot ran up my neck. "You're buying him a house," I said, "but you won't loan us 10. "Condo, not house," my mother corrected. "And this isn't a loan conversation. It's a responsibility conversation." My father nodded. "Exactly." Jack's fingers tightened. I could feel my pulse against his knuckles. "He works 12 hours a day," I said, "with one hand." Ethan rolled his eyes. "Here we go." My voice shook. "You'll regret talking about him that way." The room flattened. My mother tilted her head. "Excuse me?" "He's earned respect," I said. So have I. My father sighed. Don't raise your voice at this table. I wasn't shouting. My chest felt like it was. I pushed my chair back an inch. The crystal chimed with the movement. We were asking for a chance, I said, not a favor. Ethan leaned in. I leaned into him, shaking. He smelled like clean cotton and motor oil, like our real life. The driveway stretched like a dare. I could see my mother's dining room window from here. The chandelier swung a little, catching light that didn't belong to us. In the car, we didn't speak. Streetlights cut slow bands across the windshield. My reflection looked older in the glass. Somewhere, a radio spilled a song into the dark. We drove through it like fog. They bought him a house, I said, at the next red light. Then we'll build ours, Jack said. The light turned green. He eased forward. His left hand was steady on the wheel. When we reached our apartment, the hallway smelled like someone else's dinner. I kicked off my shoes and missed the mat. They skidded under the couch. Jack didn't turn on the overhead light, just the small lamp with the crooked shade. The room softened. He opened the fridge and came back with 2 cheap beers. To freedom, he said. I clinked his can. To us. We sat on the floor because the couch sagged in the middle. The fan ticked. Somewhere a neighbor laughed too hard at a TV show. I breathed until I could hear my own breathing. I brought a pie, I said suddenly. The pie sat untouched on their perfect counter, cooling for people who wouldn't eat it. Jack smiled sideways. We'll have pie for breakfast. I laughed, surprised by the sound. Rebel. He bumped my shoulder with his. You okay? Not yet. Soon, he said. I nodded and finished the beer, the tin edge biting my lip. I carried the empty can to the sink and turned on the tap just to hear water I could control. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan lit the screen. Don't be dramatic. My thumb hovered. I deleted it. The screen went blank. Peaceful, in a way. Jack stood and reached for my hand. Come on, he said. Bed. I won't sleep. I will, he said, deadpan. I cracked a smile I didn't feel and followed him down the hall. In the bedroom, I lay on my back and watched the fan blades turn shadows on the ceiling. Jack slid close, warm and quiet, and folded me in. His breathing found a rhythm. Mine followed. At 2 a.m., the air conditioner coughed awake. I stared into the dark and counted the coughs like footsteps. I won't ask you again. I didn't send it. I didn't need to. I opened a new note and wrote numbers instead. Rent due. Parts ordered. Hours scheduled. 10,000 felt big yesterday. Today, it felt like a target with our names on it. Jack put on his work shirt and looped his keys on his belt. Ready? Ready, I said, and meant it. At the door, I looked back at our small kitchen, our chipped mugs, the half-eaten pie. It was all ours. No one could remove me from this room, or from this man's life, or from my own. On the landing, he took my hand. We do it anyway, he said. We do it anyway, I echoed. We walked down the stairs into a morning that didn't care who got funded or praised. The air was already warm. The street smelled like cut grass and gasoline. We got in the car and drove toward the leaking roof, the bad wiring, the place that would be ours because we said so. I didn't feel small, I felt clear. And by the time we hit the first red light, I knew the line I wouldn't cross again. I would never ask them for anything. I scrubbed ketchup rings off a diner booth at 2 a.m. and told the laminate, we'll get there. The floor smelled like coffee and bleach. My feet ached through cheap sneakers. When my coworker slid past with a bus tub, she asked, don't you ever take a break? Breaks don't pay bills, I said, wringing out the rag. By the time I walked home, rain had soaked my socks. Our one-bedroom in East Nashville breathed with the sound of a leaky faucet. Jack was asleep on the couch, boots still on, a half-torn carburetor open on the table beside a pile of bills we pretended were coasters. I tugged a blanket over him and brushed back his hair. He stirred, murmured my name, and went quiet again. That's how we loved each other then. Small things, no speeches. At 4, the pain hit him. He jolted up, hand clamped to his shoulder, breath cutting fast. I dropped to my knees in front of him and wrapped both arms around his torso until his ribs softened under my cheek. Sometimes I feel like it's still there, he said, eyes wet and angry. It is, I whispered. The fridge hummed. Somewhere upstairs a neighbor flushed. He let out a shaky laugh. Hell of a honeymoon, huh? Small wins showed up like spare change. A neighbor brought over a mower no one else would touch. Jack rebuilt the car with his left hand and a rubber jar gripper, sweat pooling at his collar. The engine coughed, then purred. The old man grinned and clapped Jack's shoulder. You fix what others toss, he said. Jack shrugged. Guess that's my specialty. With the cash from 3 more jobs, we bought a used plastic sign from a closing shop. I painted the letters on our tiny porch, wrist quivering from too many shifts. Iron Faith Repair. Jack stood behind me with 2 coffee mugs, smiled like the world had exhaled. It's not much, he said. It's ours, I answered, and let the paint smudge on purpose, like a signature. The car died the week rent came due. We spread crumpled bills on the kitchen table and counted slow. We'll skip dinner out this month, I said. Jack smirked. What dinner out? We laughed, and the laugh was a valve, releasing something tight and mean. After, we sat there just breathing, the table between us a battlefield we planned to win with napkin math. I got home from a double and found a paper taped to our door. Final warning. I folded it once, twice, then slid down the hallway wall until I hit the doormat. What else can we give? I asked the glue streaks. Jack knelt in front of me, forehead to mine. Everything but quitting. I held his face in both hands like it might drift away. We stayed on the floor until the fear thinned enough to stand. A week later, my mother posted a boat picture, Ethan and his girlfriend, barefoot, sunburned, grinning with a bottle between them. Our success story, she wrote, so proud of this beautiful family. I watched my reflection warp in the glass as my thumb hovered. Jack walked by, caught the screen. Don't let ghosts rent space in your head, he said. Guess I'm bad at evictions, I answered, and closed the app. We hung our sign one Saturday when the sky was the color of dishwater. The garage was a concrete box with mismatched tools, a portable fan, and a faded flag Jack tacked to the cinder block wall with his teeth, holding a nail while his left hand swung the hammer. I snapped a photo of him under the sign and posted it. We did it. My phone pinged once, a like from a coworker. Then a text banner. The first customer to pay full price was a woman with 2 kids in the back seat and a minivan that whined when it turned. Jack tightened the belt, wiped his hands, and held the hood up with his hip. The engine settled. She pressed cash into my hand and said, "Y'all remind me what hard work looks like." I laughed, and it wasn't polite. It was light. Jack tossed me the rag, grinning. "See? Told you we'd make it." "We're not there yet," I said, counting the bills. "But we're closer than they think," he answered. We framed the cash receipt and taped it to the office corkboard with blue painter's tape because we didn't own tax. It hung crooked. Perfect. Nights, I still wiped diner counters until my fingers went numb. Mornings, I poured coffee for Jack at the workbench, slid a donut toward him, and answered the cracked shop phone with a cheerful, "Iron Faith." We learned the names of our neighbors' dogs, the sound of our new socket wrench, the angle that made our overhead light stop flickering if you tapped the fixture just so. When a customer asked how long until their trimmer was ready, Jack said, "No promises," then stayed an extra hour to make one. One evening, a storm rolled through. Rain drummed the metal roof hard enough to drown out the fan. We stood under the open bay door watching water sheet off the street, the letters on our sign glowing dull and proud. "It's small," I said. "For now," he replied. The parking lot flooded ankle deep. A teenager on a bike pedaled past with plastic bags stuffed under his shirt. I waved him under the awning. Jack handed him a towel. "You fix bikes?" the kid asked, hopeful. Jack glanced at me and smiled. "We fix what we can." The kid left happier than he came. We turned off the shop lights one by one. In the sudden quiet, the rain felt like applause we didn't need and couldn't stop anyway. Outside, we locked the door. I traced the edge of the F on our sign with my fingertip, paint rough under the skin. "Someday they'll see," I said, not loud, not pleading, just true. "No rush," Jack said, sliding his arm around my shoulders. "Let's just build." We walked toward the car through warm puddles, shoes soaking up the kind of day you remember later without trying. The street smelled like cut grass and wet rubber. Behind I hear the impact wrench pop twice, sharp and clean, and the whole shop hums like a steady chest. Late 2023. Iron Faith Auto actually sounds like a place now. Laughter at the counter, a kid chasing a dropped socket, the smell of coffee cutting through oil. Jack wipes grease off his one hand and grins at a regular. Same rattle? The guy laughs. Same rattle. I slide invoices into folders without double-checking totals. That's new. I used to second-guess every number like it could break us. Now the sign over the door, hand-painted, a little crooked, reads, Iron Faith Auto, honest work, one hand strong. It's not fancy, it's ours. A reporter in a windbreaker steps in, notepad already out. He says he's covering veteran-owned businesses for the community section. Jack tries to wave him off. We're just fixing cars. I tell the truth. People should see that that's enough. He snaps a photo of us in front of the lift, Jack with his pinned sleeve, me with a smudge on my cheek I don't bother wiping. The headline 2 days later, From Injury to Integrity, the couple rebuilding faith in small business. The article bounces around town. Old customers drop by with donuts. New ones book appointments. For the first time, I feel seen without having to defend why. Mom likes the article on Facebook. It's there 1 minute, gone the next. Then Ethan reposts it with, Proud of my sister. No call. No, we were wrong. Just a public pat on the head. I tilt my phone toward Jack. He's wiping down a brake rotor. Guess success makes you family again, he says. I half smile. Guess so. We buy a second-hand truck that doesn't complain when it starts. Our first day off in years, we drive to the lake with sandwiches wrapped in wax paper. We eat them on the hood. The water is quiet. My shoulders drop for the first time in a long time. We made it, I say. Jack bumps my knee with his. Not rich, but rich enough for peace. I let that settle. It feels truer than anything. A friend from town mentions Ethan over coffee. Heard his company's wobbling. I stir cream into my cup. Oh? Bad bets. That night, the call comes. I step into the office, close the door with my hip. Hi, honey, Mom says, all satin and smile. How have you been? Busy. We saw your business in the paper. You two are doing so well. We are. A pause. Then, we just need a little help. A few thousand, just until things settle. The way she says we is the same way she used to claim holidays, boundaries, me. I hold the phone harder. You didn't want my life before. Why now? There's a wet sigh, then the knife I've heard since I was 12. Don't be ungrateful. We raised you. My throat warms, hot and tight. I see Jack in my mind, bent over an axle in August heat, one hand bracing the world. He never asked for grateful. He asked for a chance. I breathe in through my nose. I hope you find what you need, I say. Her voice drops, steel under sugar. So this is who you've become? Someone who stopped begging, I say, and hang up. My hands shake once. Then they don't. I walk back out. Jack is at the parts washer, sleeves rolled, humming a song I know from our first apartment. You okay? He asks. They wanted money. He tips his head. You give it? No. He nods. Good. We sit at the counter with paper cups of coffee. The clock ticks. Grease lines our knuckles like old scars. I say, I didn't think it would feel this empty. He looks at me like he's setting a bolt. That's not emptiness. That's space. In the morning, I open the bay doors early. Cold air rides in with the smell of leaf blowers and someone's bakery. A high school kid drops off his mom's minivan. A retired nurse brings cookies and a rattling Corolla. People I know by name. People who know mine. I greet each with a calm that doesn't wobble anymore. Mom's voice doesn't replay in my head. The old humiliation doesn't flare. The years of proving things to people who refuse to see me loosen their grip and float off somewhere I don't have to go. Around lunch, a man in a VFW hat taps.
"Hungry?" he asks.
Starving. We step out into the cool night. The hand-painted sign glows a little under the street lamp. It's still crooked. I decide I like it that way. I pull the door tight and say it soft. For me, for the past. For the girl who once begged at a well that never poured. Funny thing about pride. It's expensive when you run out of other people to blame. Jack squeezes my shoulder. Tacos? Always. We walk to the truck, not hurrying. The shop behind us stands. No miracles, no applause, no audience. Just work that held steady long enough to hold us back. The balance has shifted. Not because they fell, because we stood. The mornings had started to feel easy again. No alarm, no panic. Just the smell of coffee and the sound of Jack tinkering with something in the kitchen. Iron Faith Auto was steady. Bills paid, loyal customers, work lined up for weeks. We'd fought for this peace, inch by inch. So when the man at the counter asked it, it took me a second to even understand. "Hey," he said, flipping his keys in his hand. "Is it true you refuse to help your parents?" I stopped writing mid-receipt. "Excuse me?" He shrugged. "That's what people are saying online." "That your mom asked for help and you said no." My throat went dry. "Where'd you hear that?" "Facebook, I think." You know how folks talk. He gave an awkward laugh that fell flat. Jack came out from the back, wiping his hands. "Everything good out here?" "Yeah," I said too quickly. "Just rumors." But when I looked at him, he knew better. That night, I opened Facebook for the first time in months. The first post I saw was hers, a photo of her garden, captioned, "Some daughters forget the hands that raised them." Over 500 likes, and comments, hundreds of them. So sad. Kids these days have no respect. Parents give everything, and this is the thanks they get? My stomach flipped. Then I saw Ethan's post, shared right after hers. A photo of my parents at their church, smiling like saints. Caption, "Family means nothing to some people." And then just 2 words that turned my blood to ice. Pray for them. The next day, people were different. A woman who used to chat about her grandkids dropped off her car keys without meeting my eyes. Another customer said softly, "I hope things work out with your mom." I forced a smile. Me too. Every word I said felt heavier than it used to. Jack noticed. He always did. "Talk to me," he said while closing the register. "They're turning me into the villain." That night, I brushed my teeth and stared into the mirror. Same brown eyes, same tired face, same person who never did enough to please them. I thought of her saying once, "You're too much like me," but it sounded like an insult back then. Now it felt like a warning. My reflection blurred. Jack's voice came from the doorway. "Hey, come here, I set the toothbrush down." He didn't say another word, just opened his arm and I walked into it. No crying, no talking, just breathing. 2 days later, my phone rang, my aunt. "I don't know what's going on," she said, "but maybe you should apologize. Your mom's really hurt." "She's hurt?" "She just feels like you've turned your back on the family." I laughed under my breath. She turned first. A pause, then, "You know how your mother is." "I do," I said, and ended the call. It got worse. One of our regulars, a contractor who brought his whole fleet to us, canceled his appointment, said his wife didn't like what she'd read online. Another left a review. "Rude owners, not the kind of people you support." It wasn't even true. The words sat in my gut like stones. I walked into the office, shut the door, and pressed my forehead to the desk. Jack found me there a few minutes later. He knelt down, grease still on his face. "Let me fix this." "You can't fix lies," I whispered. He looked at me for a long time. "Then we tell the truth." 2 mornings later, I opened my inbox and froze. Subject, request for comment, family dispute involving local business. The email was from a local reporter. "We're running a story about a family conflict connected to a veteran-owned repair shop. Would you like to comment?" My pulse kicked hard against my ribs. Jack read it over my shoulder. They're using us for headlines now. I closed the laptop slowly. I stayed quiet too long. That night, we cleared the kitchen table. I pulled out every message, every text, every piece of proof I'd saved. Screenshots, voicemails, bank records, all of it. Jack stood behind me, rubbing his neck. "You sure you want to do this?" I nodded. They wanted attention. Let's give them truth. He didn't argue, just said, "Then we do it right." I didn't shake.
Jack smiled a little, tired but sure.
Good. I didn't hit post yet. I saved it, closed the lid, and sat back. The kitchen was silent except for the hum of the fridge. "Tomorrow," I said. "Tomorrow they'll read what they wrote themselves." Jack stood, turned off the light, and kissed the top of my head. "Sleep. You'll need it." I sat there in the dark for a while. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, the kind that builds. I thought about every time they laughed at Jack, every time they looked through me, every time I tried to earn love that was already sold to someone else. And then I whispered it, not loud, not angry, just the truth, straight and cold. They wanted a war. They just forgot I learned how to survive one. That was enough. I closed the laptop and went to bed. The house was quiet that morning. Not the kind of quiet that hurt, just calm, clean air after a storm. The smell of coffee drifted through the kitchen. I poured 2 mugs, steady hands, no rush. Jack sat at the table watching me. "You ready?" he asked. "Ready enough," I said. He didn't smile, just nodded once. The fear that used to live in my chest was gone. All that was left was purpose. I took everything with me that morning. The printed messages, screenshots, old emails. Every wound turned into paper. The lawyer's office was small, the kind with stiff chairs and a bell that chimed too loud when I opened the door. She flipped through my folder page by page, her eyebrows lifted halfway through. "You've been patient long enough," she said. "This isn't defamation. It's truth." "I don't want a lawsuit," I said. "I just want the truth seen." She leaned back, studying me. "Then show it. Just once. Clean, clear. No anger, just proof." I nodded. It wasn't permission I needed, it was confirmation. Back home, I spread everything out on the kitchen table again. The same table that had seen every version of me, crying, tired, trying. Jack paced behind me. "You don't have to do this," he said. "I already did," I said softly. I opened my laptop and clicked New Post. Title: Here's the Truth. The cursor blinked like a pulse. I started uploading. Screenshot after screenshot. My mother's text messages. Ethan's smug jokes. The proof of every lie they'd sold.
Oh my God, she warned them. This is disgusting. How could a mother say that?
It spread fast, faster than I expected. The same people who had whispered before were now shouting for me. I set the phone down and breathed out, slow and deep. The kind of breath you take when the weight finally moves. By the next morning, Ethan's post was gone. His account turned private. My mom's Facebook disappeared completely. The family that had lived for attention suddenly vanished from it. Messages started coming in, relatives, old friends, people I hadn't heard from in years. I had no idea. "We're so sorry. She fooled all of us." I didn't reply to any of them. Not because I was angry, because I didn't owe anyone my voice anymore. 2 days later, another email appeared, from the same reporter who once wanted to write about the family dispute. Now the subject line said, "We'd like to share your story, how you turned pain into something powerful." Jack saw it over my shoulder. "You thinking about it?" he asked. "Maybe later," I said. "This isn't about fame. It's about truth." He nodded, and that was the end of it. The real win wasn't the attention, it was the quiet. 3 days later, the phone rang, Mom's number. I let it buzz 4 times before answering. "Why would you humiliate us like that?" she said, voice trembling. "You did that yourselves," I said, calm, steady. "You made us look like monsters." "You handed me the script."
There was a pause, then the same old tone I knew too well, sharp, full of blame. "You've changed. You're selfish. You've lost respect." I hung up before she could finish. For the first time in my life, hanging up didn't make me feel guilty. It made me feel free. That night, Jack and I sat outside the shop.
The sky was turning orange, the sound of cars fading into distance. "You didn't have to prove anything," he said. "I know," I said, "but I needed them to stop." He looked at me. "And now?" "Now I stop too." He nodded once. "You did it right." Over the next few weeks, everything shifted. Customers came back. Some apologized. One woman left a note with her payment. "You handled that with more grace than I ever could." We didn't celebrate, we just worked. The whispers in town faded. People didn't look at me with pity anymore. They looked like they finally saw me. One night, long after Jack had gone to bed, I sat with my laptop again. The post was still up, still getting comments. I scrolled, not to read, but to feel the quiet underneath it all. Every live at once felt like a cage now sat in daylight, small and powerless. I hovered over the settings and hit archive. The screen went blank. Jack's voice came from the couch. "Done?" "Done." I closed the laptop and turned off the light. In the dark, I looked over at him. "They took my voice for years," I said softly. He smiled, eyes half closed. "Then you took it back." I shook my head, a small smile finding its way out. "No," I said. "I just stopped whispering." And that was it. No fireworks, no speeches, just silence, the kind that finally meant peace. They stopped staring. It didn't happen with a parade or a headline. It happened on a Tuesday morning when a man in a delivery van rolled down his window, lifted 2 fingers in a quick salute, and drove off smiling like we were neighbors again. I wiped my hands on a shop rag and brought Jack a plastic cup of lemonade. He slid out from under an F-150, sleeve pinned clean, face smudged with oil, humming off key with the radio like the world had never tried to drown us out. "Feels different," I said, leaning on the workbench. "What does?" he asked, tapping the tire with a lug wrench. "I don't want pity." "Then don't give them pity," I said. "Give them truth." He nodded once, slow. "All right." One night we didn't buy new clothes. We fixed up what we had. I steamed his dress blues, pressed the seam where fabric ended and memory began, pinned the sleeves straight. He stood in the hallway mirror squinting. I smoothed his collar. "You look good, soldier," I teased. "You just like the uniform." "Maybe," I said, smiling, "but I love the man who wears it." He caught my eyes in the glass, the same eyes that used to break in parking lots and bathrooms and cars parked one street over from my parents' house. His voice dropped. "We made it, huh? We're still making it." City Hall smelled like floor cleaner and coffee. Folding chairs scraped. Flags stood at attention, and the whole room hummed with small-town chatter. Families, veterans in caps, teenagers in hoodies hanging near the back doors. The mayor shook our hands and said he was proud of what we'd built. I looked around at faces I knew from grocery aisles and gas pumps, faces that used to slide away from mine. Now they held, curious, warm, steady. "Still think they remember the old stuff?" Jack whispered. "Let them," I said. "They'll see the rest now." The host adjusted the microphone. "Tonight we honor a couple who turned struggle into service. Jack and his wife, founders of Iron Faith Auto." The spotlight found us. Applause rose, hesitant at first, then sure. Jack's fingers tightened around mine. I leaned in. "You've done harder things than this." "Like marriage," he said. I snorted, and it loosened something. He stepped to the microphone with no notes and no armor. "I'm not good at speeches," he started, and the room settled. "But I know about losing things." Heads tipped forward. A cough died in the back row. "I lost my arm in Afghanistan. Thought I lost my purpose, too. Turns out, purpose doesn't live in a limb. It lives in what you do with what's left." A few murmurs, low and real. "My wife? She never let me quit. We built something small, honest, and ours. That's all we wanted, a place where work meant worth again." He stepped back. The silence held for a clean second, like the town was taking a breath together. Then it broke into applause that hit like summer rain, loud, rolling. Afterward, a line formed without anyone being told to line up. A man with a cane told him, "Son, you reminded me today I can get off my couch." A teenage boy in a baseball cap said, "My dad's a vet. He quit his job when he got back. I'm going to show him your story." Jack shook his hand and said, "Tell him it's never too late." We took a photo with the VFW ladies. We hugged the woman who whispered thanks into my hair like a prayer she'd been holding too long. We walked out under a sky big enough to make the city lights look polite. Our dress shoes clicked on the sidewalk. I nudged him with my shoulder. "See? Told you you're good at this." He laughed, lighter than I'd heard in years. "Next time, you're the one with the mic." "Not a chance," I said, but I was smiling. Back at the shop, he hung the certificate by the counter where people sign receipts. I watched him measure the spot with his palm and hammer the nail with 3 careful taps. "You sure about that spot?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, "right where people can see what second chances look like." Beside it, our old wooden sign still read, "Iron Faith Auto, honest work, one hand strong." I ran my fingers over the paint. "That's exactly what it is," I said. When my phone buzzed, I almost didn't look. Then I saw the name, Ethan. "I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that, any of it." I stood very still and watched the dots blink. I thought of that dining room table, the crystal, the linen, the laugh that slid like a knife under the tablecloth. I thought of the silence that followed me for years. I typed back 2 words, "Take care." No lecture, no list, no door slamming, just release. The next mornings were easy. People brought donuts and stories. An older couple rolled in a Buick and left a thank you card on the counter. A little girl with pigtails pointed at the framed certificate and said, "My grandpa has a hat like yours." And Jack told her the hat was the important part, not the certificate. The whispers that used to stick to my skin didn't live here anymore. They'd burned out. That night we carried 2 folding chairs to the porch outside the shop and sat with paper cups of coffee cooling in our hands. Crickets stitched the quiet together. A train horn sounded far off like a friendly dog. I leaned my head on his shoulder and
The mornings feel lighter now. Not easier exactly, just cleaner. The kind of calm that comes after a long storm finally gives up. Our garage hums with the same rhythm it always has, only now it belongs to something bigger. 2 new shops, one in Murfreesboro, one in Franklin, both running steady. Jack's training a new hire today, a quiet vet with a limp and a shy smile. I'm behind the counter sorting invoices and humming along with the old country tune playing from a dusty radio. "We're really doing it," I say, half under my breath. Jack looks up, grease on his cheek. "Told you hard work pays better than revenge." I laugh. He's right. We don't talk about the past much anymore. The silence isn't heavy, it's earned. The office wall behind me is full now. Letters, notes, thank yous from customers and strangers. A kid's crayon drawing that says, "Thank you for fixing Dad's truck." A veteran's scrawled handwriting, "Your story reminded me not to give up." "This wall's getting crowded," I say. Jack wipes his hands on a rag. "Good problem to have." He's training the new guy on how to rebuild an alternator. "Don't rush it," he tells him. "You build skill the same way you rebuild trust, 1 bolt at a time." The guy nods, jaw tight but eyes hopeful. I lean on the doorway, arms crossed, just watching. There's something different in Jack now. Not just strength, but peace. He isn't surviving anymore. He's teaching others how to start over. Later that afternoon, the mail drops through the slot. Bills, flyers, and 1 plain white envelope. The handwriting stops me cold. My mother's. I hold it for a while before I open it. Inside, a single line. "We're proud of you. Can we visit?" No apology, no explanation, just those 10 words. Jack notices the letter in my hand. "From them?" "Yeah." "What's it say?" "That they're proud, and they want to visit." He studies my face. "How's that feel?" I fold the letter carefully, flattening the crease. "Strange," I say, "like it came from a ghost." He nods, quiet. I walk over to the shelf and place the letter on top. Not hidden, not displayed, just there. "You gonna write back?" he asks. "No," I say, "not yet." So that girl who once begged for approval doesn't live here anymore. Later, we carry 2 folding chairs to the porch. The sun dips low, painting everything gold. Crickets hum in the grass. A truck rumbles in the distance. I rest my head on his shoulder. "Feels different now," I say. "What does?" "Winning. When you're not trying to win." He chuckles. "Guess that's when it counts." We sit in that kind of silence that doesn't ask for words, the kind that feels like closure.
After a while, I speak again, quietly. I don't hate them, I say. I just don't owe them anymore. He nods, looking straight ahead. That's growth. You think they'll ever say sorry? Maybe, he says, but do you still need to hear it? I shake my head slowly. No, not anymore. The light from the window catches his sleeve, that clean, pinned edge that once made people stare. I turn toward him. They called you broken, I say softly. He glances at me, half smiling. Yeah? Turns out, I tell him, you were the strongest one of us all. He reaches for my hand and gives it one slow squeeze. The porch creaks under our chairs. The air smells like oil, cut grass, and new beginnings. The world's finally quiet, not because it forgot what happened, but because it doesn't need to be said anymore. We sit there until the sun disappears behind the trees, just the two of us. No apologies, no revenge, no noise. Just peace. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself after being doubted, judged, or left behind, I'd love to hear your story. What part of this journey hit you the hardest? Was it the silence, the fight, or the peace that came after? Share your thoughts below. Your comment might remind someone that strength isn't loud, it's steady.